30, so that means it's time to start our regular meeting, and we'll do so with a roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton.
Here.
Commissioner Bartwick.
Here.
Commissioner Webb.
Here.
Commissioner Stecklin.
Here.
Mayor Absher.
Here. TJ, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, item number 3 on the agenda is the opportunity for the public to speak to the council. This part of the agenda is regulated by a couple of ordinances as listed there on the agenda, 3128 and 3134. Copies of which are up here by this plant on the counter. Is there anybody who'd like to speak to the council other than items A, B, and C, which we've got separate? I know you did. Anybody else? Jim?
I'll try not to be as brief as possible.
Can you come up to the microphone up here on that?
Good evening, everyone. Mayor, commissioners, Mr. Webb, how you doing? I was making an observation, and I happened to notice that there's a fence down, and it's over by the school, and it's at the corner. What it is a barbed wire fence, and I really didn't want to say much about it, but the more I think about it, since it's next to the school, I think it needs addressed. It's at Union and Buchanan, and also that would be Union and Mechanic Street. And I think we know who owns it. It's a boat shop. Now, apparently someone has tried to break into the lot, and they accessed over the fence. It looks like they jerked the wire out. But whether they broke into it or not is beside the point. The way it's made, it's hanging approximately 6 to 9 inches over the sidewalk, and the middle string is at 5'6", and the highest string is at 5'11". So if you go walking through there with your child or what have you, you're probably going to cut your head open. And knowing kids that are very well could reach up there and grab a hold of it and think it's a rope, and which tetanus and all those things. At this day and age, that doesn't happen very often, but it still could happen. The other issue is, I'm sure everybody knows my son passed away, and I have some very disturbing pictures, and I'm going to present those, let you look at them real quick. Now this was 6 months later that I finally found out where he was at. And I had been to the coroner's office on 2 different occasions, and I asked for policy and procedures, where the guy was at, and I was never told. What I was told was I had to call a funeral home and put him in the funeral home, and I wasn't given an opportunity to identify the body. So it would be hard for me to do that type of thing and not know actually that's your son. Just to call the funeral home and put somebody in there. They never told me where he was at to go identify that body. And I found that very disturbing as being the only parent having an opportunity to go identify your son. You understand where I'm coming from. It hurt pretty bad. And the other thing is, I'm just going to touch briefly on these things. Some things about our police department, which, Chief, you do a great job, by the way. Very efficient. I'm sure we want to run the police officer standards training, obviously. And are we accredited? Do we go with the Commission of Accreditation for Law Enforcement? Are we a member of that? No. How about our CAPS? Do we do the Chicago Alternative Policing? Like community policing? And if so, how do you get involved with that?
No, we do not do that.
How about the neighborhood watch or anything like that?
Not yet.
Well, okay. Well, the other thing is, there's been some incidences that happen through some of the police policies that I've read on administration. Increased patrols don't solve crime. 2-man cars don't solve crime. Number 7 in the scanning, analysis, response, and assessment the number 7 reason, it says crimes are not solved through criminal investigation conducted by the police. They are solved by suspects apprehended or someone identifies them. And it was also in the administration book that the initial officer on the scene that takes the report, that all that basic information is crucial to the investigation and imperative that he does so. Which I've had several situations where you don't even ask a question. Had windows shot out, and obviously the suspect, I witnessed him. In fact, I was told Friday by one of the officers, I ain't gonna mention the name, it don't matter, that it has to be on video now. So I don't know when we changed the statute that everything had to be on video, and witnesses are no longer credible. And that was after a tree fell on somebody's house, and the guy, I told the man he'd do foot traffic, get the tree off or whatever he needed to help the neighbor. I leave and come back 30 minutes later, next thing I know, he's burnt tires, pulled his truck in and burnt tires across the backyard, so called an officer. And he said that nothing he can do about it unless it's on video. Really? Oh, it's a new one on me.
When did this occur?
Friday. This last Friday. And there's other incidences where some windows got shot out. Obviously, the guy that did it was standing right there. You can see where the bullet holes is with a BB gun, thank God. And the officer didn't do anything with that. They were not detained. There was nothing happened to them whatsoever.
When did that occur?
I haven't been to the PD to get the reports, but I will do so. I think I do have a report of it, but I couldn't get it together in time to get it here. So these are incidences that seem to keep reoccurring, and I don't know why the people that are responsible for it aren't apprehended. And trespass is another one. I've had 3 different incidences where people just pull up out of the blue looking for this dead guy that I just mentioned earlier, which man has been dead almost 2 years, and they just go gallivanting around the place like nobody's business. I caught one guy defecating, which ain't no big deal. You gotta go, you gotta go. I fully understand that. But his house was a block away. And I got his license plates, I got the model of his truck, I got pictures of it, and I got pictures of the other ones. So, I don't know what's going on, or why I'm not getting any results through the police department, but something's going on. And obviously something's going on at the coroner's office. Because I asked for the policies. I even looked on the website and said, at the courthouse, and it said that the website was down. So my question is, what are the policies, what are the procedures, and what rights do the parents have to identifying their children, if any? I was told he's already identified, but, you know, to me, that means nothing. Since I'm the last sole parent, I thought I would have the rights to look at my son and see, make sure that is him before I go get the funeral home. I think every parent would like that option.
Where did all this occur? That the address of the window shooting and the.
I'll bring that at the next meeting, and we can, I don't know that I have to present it before everyone, but we can go over it because I have expressed my concerns, and we can do this sometime during the day or some time when you have time available. And it doesn't have to be done at the meeting, because I know there's a lot of people here and you got a lot of business to do. And from what I gather, you have a very excellent staff, Mr. Mayor, and good commissioners and good police chief, and you guys do a pretty good job. City looks good.
If I might ask, have you had a conversation with the coroner?
I did, 2 times, no, not with the coroner, with the receptionist, older lady, and she called Junior Burke, I think it is, and conversed with him, and of course I got runaround. The way I look at it is runaround, because I never got any definite answer. I don't know where he's at. I'm still being told he's gotta be put in a funeral home. And I'm thinking in my mind, well, how do I know that's even him? Which I'm sure that, you know, prints and other things. And it's, as far as I know, he was working for the MDU. So can't confirm that nor deny it, but according to what he told me in his testimony, sworn testimony, that he was. That he got 200 for a buy and 300 for a bust. So, I'm thinking, well, are they pulling a fast one? Is this a rubber body? Is he with the WPP? I mean, these are things that happen every day. So it's not unusual for someone to take someone down in the crime industry and then relocate that person, make them go away. So I wasn't for sure until I seen the body. So was my stance on it. But I didn't find out till 6 months later, only through my aunt told me where he was at. How she found out, I don't know.
When did this occur? The body, when did they find the body?
Well, I was wrongfully incarcerated at the county jail, and I'll have to get the report on that too. That's when I was released on my own recog.
Was it in the city limits here, Marion?
Absolutely, it was on Jackson Street,
Okay.
down from Smalls, just north of Smalls, that first block. I believe it was a Calvert's residence. That's a trailer. And it's kind of iffy about the circumstances that happened, you know, I have the report in my bag. If you read the report, and another thing, there was no follow-up on the crime, because there's good possibility he could have got the, what's that drug, they mix in there, it makes you, kills you, that's out on the streets now everywhere, huh?
Fentanyl.
Fentanyl, I started to say phenobarbital, but it's fentanyl. There was no follow-up, as far as I know, any criminal investigation as to where the guy may have obtained those things. So is he really working, has he worked for the drug unit? Was he killed? I don't know.
Well, I can assure you, if his body was found in the city limits, there would be an investigation. If you wanna get with Chief Fitz, maybe this week, swing by the PD and talk with him, I'm sure he could enlighten you on what we have, but I guarantee you that it would have been investigated.
Well, I have a hard time getting past the lobby. To be honest, I mean, I've asked, and I've had some missing, my Harley's been stolen, and sergeant that was there gave possession of my items while I was wrongfully incarcerated, and nobody seems to know where it's all at. I was also kept from going to 2 court cases. I had a paper, said I'm supposed to be in court, go to the front, knock on the door, hey, you got court? Oh, we'll call you. I was never called. It was a civil court, but I still had court papers to go. So I never made 2 proceedings. I was denied access to court. I found that a little disturbing, because they were important court cases to go
I
to.
can't speak to that, that's out of my purview, but, if you wanna get with Chief Fitz at the PD.
I will. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. That pretty much concludes everything I have to say.
Okay, is there anybody else other than the ABCs that are on the list? Yes. Okay, let's go in order here. Detective Sergeant T.J. Warren wanted to speak to us.
It's our annual year again for the polar plunge for Special Olympics. I was nice enough not to bring you actual team packets this time. It's almost 70 degrees now, so what? Hey, if we keep that running, that's pretty nice when you get in the water that way. But every year we put a team together with Marion Police Department for reference for Special Olympics for individuals that have intellectual disabilities. That way they're able to compete yearly, also go on Olympic triathletes, where they're able to compete in different sports, show their athletic ability. We put these on, we do this event every year out at the Rental Lake, South Sandusky Beach, where we raise these funds so we can present this for these athletes to compete in these athletic events. We went out to the beach. Minimum donations are $100 for to compete. That's why I always try to get you guys to come be members with us every year. Like you said, the water's a little warmer, or the air temperature's a little warmer, so it's not so bad getting out of the water as it usually is. So we're just asking again for the annual donations that you've been generous enough to give us the past few years for this event.
last year we budgeted for it right over it, so.
What's the date of it?
It's March 4th. It starts at noon.
Saturday?
Yes.
I'll again throw it out there that if Chief Fitz will do it, I would be happy to join you.
He's got an excuse this year. All right, try it.
You don't have to run in, you can walk slowly.
We have noon employee testing that day. So,
That'd be a good test. Okay,
So good. Thank you, Mayor.
thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. Appreciate it.
Ms. Lee?
Good afternoon. My name is Trifozia Lee. I'm the coordinator of the banquet called Young Hearts with Goals and Purpose. It's gonna be May 6th at 1 o'clock at the Pavilion here in the city of Marion. It's an event that's growing. Last year we had it set up at over 400 people and we had to bring more tables out. It was over 500 people. First, let me go back. I appreciate the mayor of the city and all the councilmen. I appreciate each of you for all the support that you've given down through the years. This year, the event is growing. I've been getting calls already about a lot of the youth that want to come. And the city of Marion has been tremendous in the support of this event. We got children come from all over, even to make this an event for their youth. They get the hotels here in the city, and it's a wonderful event. And I want to ask the council if you all would to sponsor 20 tables for this event.
So-
The tables is $120 a table, $120 a table for seat 8 people, and I would like for the city to do 20 tables.
It's $2,400, is that right?
That's all right.
I was using my toes and everything. So, I think we do this every year, and I don't wanna be rude in any way, but we budget for a donation a year in advance, basically, literally this time of the year. And I don't think we did for this, we budgeted $1,500 donation for you, and then I think we helped with the pavilion rental as well,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So, the problem we have is doing something extra, we need to budget for that ahead of time.
And that's true. I thought with me coming 2 or 3 years, you might have put us in there.
Well, yeah,
Yes.
okay.
But don't get me wrong now, we appreciate what you do. Now, we appreciate that. That cannot be denied. Appreciate that. And maybe personally, I'll talk to someone and we'll make it happen, okay?
I'm sorry?
I say personally, I'll talk to some more of the council and we'll make it happen. This a sidebar on that.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll have to get back to you on that, I guess, because we didn't budget for anything other than the 1,500.
We can go, we'll go on with that, if that's what in the budget to do.
Okay,
We'll go on with that, and I appreciate you all so much.
okay. I'll see you on May 6th.
Thank you,
Can I make a suggestion?
yes.
Bring it up tonight for next year, so you would like 20 tables.
Thank you,
If that's a possibility, then we could budget it for next year.
thank you, Councilman. I couldn't get your name there, as well as I know it. But anyway, if you would please, next year, could you put it in the budget, that we could do 20 tables for next year?
I would encourage you guys to attend one of these.
I appreciate the mayor, I appreciate,
They're very,
the purpose, reason why I'm here.
very energetic.
It is very energetic. I tell everybody, come and see what we're doing. I appreciate the late Robert Butler. When we first got this vision, I went to him and he said, this'll work. Even mayor was sick, couldn't hardly get out, but he came to this banquet. And we honor him. I appreciate the mayor we have now. Mayor After, he comes to the banquet, he's a great supporter of it. So I just want y'all to come. And we here in the city. My name is Trifozia Lee. I'm gonna leave some information with you all, each of you. Call me and let's talk, okay? call me, let's talk. It's all about our children, because what we trying to do, the children, we trying to help them sit where you sitting. Because all of us, you know, we're getting older now, and the young people get ready to come on, and we want to be prepared and ready. So I appreciate you all so much. Have a wonderful night. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Aaron Smith with Smith Hafley wanted to come give the council an update on the progress at City Hall, new City Hall.
Yeah, thank you for your time. As we start to see the plane land here at City Hall, just wanted to stop in and give you an update. If you've noticed over the last month, we drilled the hole for the elevator, and supply chain issues have slowed all construction down, not only at City Hall around the square, but in basically every area of construction. But we're starting to see the end in sight. The elevator will be here in the next week. The company that's installing it says it'll be 3 to 5 weeks on that, and then you'll really start to see, if you walk in, paint on the walls, flooring going in, but we're starting to see the end in sight. And I wanted to extend an offer, if you haven't been through it at any point, our superintendent's on site full time, and to call me or stop in and get a little tour here. But to give you just a brief update that we're starting to close in, finishes are going in, and that we certainly appreciate the project, and we believe that in the end you guys will be proud of the work that we've done, and we're working hard to make it that way.
Aaron, the not transformer, I keep wanting to say transformer, transfer switch that just came in. That's
Yes,
still, before we can get the HVAC on, that has to be put in. That's the switch between the generator and power, is that
correct.
correct?
It's here, and Ameren won't schedule the transformer being delivered and installed until the equipment was here. So it showed up, I think, a week ago, and we're working with Ameren now to get them on site to get the permanent power to the building installed.
And once the HVAC can be turned on, then some of this other stuff.
Yeah, the climate control, it becomes not just the temporary measures that we have, but the building is able to be regulated far better, which makes all of the finishes go in a lot quicker and easier. And again, as soon as Ameren the equipment is now there, we're just waiting on Ameren to show up and get that installed. Any other questions? I don't want to take up too much of your time, but happy to answer anything you've got.
Sounds like still a couple months out then, probably.
Yeah, and the elevator's gonna dictate a lot of that. Like I said, they give a wide window of how long their install will be, optimistically 3 weeks. The far end would be 5 to 6 in their contracts with us. We think it'll be that their people have been on site quite a bit to inspect the shaft that we've made. They've overseen it behind us to make sure we did it all right. So we expect it to go quickly, but you just don't know until they get here with the elevator and start installing it. Thank you very much.
Thanks for it.
Thanks, Aaron.
Okay, we'll move on to, anybody else? We'll move on to item number 4, the consent agenda. Item A, B, and C, and sub-items. Anybody on the council want any of these items or sub-items removed and voted upon separately? Anybody that's in the audience want any item in the consent agenda voted upon separately? Okay, hearing no objections, I'd entertain a motion to pass the consent agenda as presented.
I'd make a motion that we would pass the consent agenda A through C as given.
Second that.
Any questions on any of these items, discussion? Okay, roll call please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item number 5A, under Building and Code Services, there's been a application for a planned unit development south of town off of Market that's slowly made its way through the zoning board process. That was some of the same issues we talked about at the last meeting. They just had some trouble getting enough people at the meetings. Is there anybody, I see the developer, is there anybody here that's to speak in opposition or has concerns to this? Okay, so anybody else? All right, so here's the way the process is supposed to work. that the code says that we're supposed to rule upon the zoning board's, in this case, approval of this, or we can overturn it, and it says in the code without further hearing. And that being said, what I'd like to do is give just a few minutes for the developer to answer any questions that the council has. We'll give you an opportunity if you're the only one. If there's more than one of you do. Could you kind of consolidate your thoughts, or maybe and present them as one, or you could all come up and talk about that, either way. And then the council can ask questions of either the developer or of you guys. So, we'll just do that. Is that okay to do, have that discussion before we have a motion with you guys?
Sure.
Okay, so, Mr. Basinger, we'll ask you to come up first. You just describe your proposal here and
Yeah, it's 100 apartments. There's 25 fourplexes, basically. It's on a 12-acre piece of property.
okay.
The question I've got is, the main entrance is off South Market.
That's correct.
The back has got a, it looks like a, is that future?
That's just a temporary road for construction.
Okay. Will there be, is there any thought to having a secondary out on the back side?
Not right now.
No? Okay.
So that would be private maintained streets once they're built, the road.
It'll be built to the city specs. It's either gonna be asphalt or concrete, one or two. But
Be something I want to
Yeah.
take in the.
Are these strictly rental? Are they rental
Yeah.
slash purchase?
No rental.
Just rental.
So Michael, at this point, you're just wanting approval for the process, if you will. Process meeting, this is what I have in mind. Later, we will come back to the site plan, drainage, all that kind of stuff to basically approve that, right?
Correct.
Because as I understand it, you just aren't that far yet, right?
That's correct.
Well, you guys, you wanna have a turn? Thank you.
Alright, so, my name is Scott Kranick. I own, my entire southern border is gonna be this development. They're planning on putting 100 apartments on 12 acres that is gonna border all of the neighbors in a very close fashion. I will say I appreciate the concrete wall that he plans to put up. The South Market Street that we live on is kind of more of a highway. The speed limit is 55 miles an hour. It's not really set up to accept with 100 apartments, 2-car garage. We're talking about 200 vehicles, and probably at least 3/4 of those trying to leave, so that's 150. In the morning, 8 o'clock, trying to come home. The traffic from South Market going into Boynton is already backed up in the morning, 8 o'clock, all the kids trying to get to school. If you try and go down Cochran, it's an old country road that is not, it's not well paved, there are no lines on it. That intersection where Cochran and South Market meet is, it's a very dangerous intersection as it is. And so I'd like for the city council to consider that this is not a good fit for this area, and without significant road improvement or traffic management, as in lights, stop signs, etc. Plus, I would like, there's no, I never see the Marion police out there patrolling. Some Marion officers live out there. They'll try travel back and forth. We also have considerations for depreciation of our property values with all these apartments right next door. This area has been a rural area. That's why we all live out there. And we've all expressed this to the zoning board meeting the other night, that you're talking about adding 100 apartments to a very rural area that has been rural for many years, and I realize progression is going forward. But we would prefer that this not be, not go in place right next to our homes. Obviously, I prefer not to have to I don't wanna tell Mr. Bissinger what he can't do with his property, just like I don't want somebody telling me what I can't do with my property, or can't do with my property. However, I think that the neighbors, that the board of this, and the potential loss of value on their homes needs to come into consideration as well. We also, rentals typically bring in crime. Mike, what else did you say? I apologize.
I'm just kind of curious of what kind of privacy fence, I mean, the concrete
Oh.
decorative fence.
Mike did have a
What it's
concern.
gonna look like, you know, like I say, if it's gonna be the concrete streets or the asphalt streets, which it don't sound like they've made up their mind on that yet. And,
How tall it's gonna be.
and how tall is the fence gonna be? Is it gonna be like a privacy thing, or is it, you know, you gonna be able to see through it, what? And, like I say, I'm concerned, like you, I'm concerned about what it's gonna do to our property values. Are they gonna hold, are they gonna drop because of the rentals around us? That's my concern.
So I'd ask you to consider that when you make your decision. I think that's all I have to say, so I appreciate your time.
Since there were some questions about this fence, can you address that? Because I have some questions about it.
Yeah,
Sounds like it's the
it's
same
gonna be
one.
a 6-foot privacy fence, so it'll be touching the neighbors and if you have a house or close, next to it. And we were looking at, maybe doing a concrete fence, be more permanent. We're just still in debate on that.
So you
It'll
don't
be
know,
6 foot tall.
you don't know if it's gonna be like, open, you can't see.
No, you
through
can't
it.
see through it.
It's,
Yeah.
Okay. Can I ask Ms. Bessing a question? You talk about on the concrete fence thing like that for the privacy thing. Did you just say that you were still working on where you haven't decided if you're gonna do a concrete fence or what?
Yeah, concrete it'll be a vinyl or concrete, one of the two.
Well, so, you know, the meeting, we wasn't here, we didn't make it the last meeting before that. We spoke to you about that directly. And you said you didn't wanna do vinyl because Rob said from
Right.
lawnmower and break it, and it was gonna be a concrete decorative fence, and I thought, well, that's fine.
Yeah.
If it's 6 foot tall, whatever, you know, where you got, that would be fine. But the vinyl, then we're going back to cheapening.
Yeah,
the
we
decorative.
wanna do the concrete fence. We
Yeah,
just have to get
I
the
would like that.
people to come down and do it, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Any questions?
How tall's our fence out there on east of town? Is that 6 foot? 6? I was saying,
But that's much different.
yeah, it's probably reduced by 6.
Michael, you mentioned the, road on the east side of the property for construction traffic in and out. Do you own the property to the east?
Yeah.
Okay.
Has anybody spoken to county, IDOT, whatever, on, cause I agree with some of the traffic, with or without it, I mean, South Market's still an extremely busy road today. And I know exactly the Cochrane Market S-curve debacle there.
Yeah.
Have anybody had that discussion with them about it?
It is the county road.
That's what I'm saying, I know it is, but has anybody discussed the possibility of it? Cause I could see this, with a lot of traffic needing slowed down, number one. I don't necessarily love lights, but something there.
They've got a caution light right there in front of my property there, and, you know, it says 45 mile an hour through that curve, but that's just a, not a recommendation more or less.
Are you saying they go faster?
That's the most.
Well, it's kind of a catch-22 because, you know, in one aspect, I don't wanna stop traffic there, cause then you run the risk of rear ends. you know, all the time, and yet you wanna be able to get people in and out of there at the same time, so.
But that's just a county road from our property south.
Yeah.
Our property north, that's still city.
Actually, they discussed in the last zoning board meeting that Texas Street South was a county road. So in the past, when I call law enforcement, the county sheriff comes out. When I need my driveway put in, I talk to the county. I mean, the city ran me water, and that's about all the business I've had with the city out there.
I think another issue is, even if you had good roads, you can't get on 37. Not very quickly. A lot of traffic on 37.
You're in the city limits, but the county manages the road.
That's the reason the county powers the road.
What is your time frame, Michael?
Well, we're way behind right now, so we were wanting to start in January, but,
You think a year?
yeah, it's about, 60 to 90 days to complete 4. We'll do 4 at a time.
Here's why I'm asking. 37, I think, is getting ready to be widened, probably within the next year. Traffic's gonna be pretty ugly on it for quite a while. Lynn, how much frontage do you have there on, South Market, roughly?
Over 100 feet, 120, 140 feet.
Is there any way, Glenn, that we could do turn lanes in and out?
You could have acceleration or deceleration lanes, where you have extra lane when you go off to get into it, and then you have a merging lane when you pull in, to be able to merge into the traffic instead of making a 90-degree turn.
Right. That would help, I would think.
Yes, that definitely would help.
I don't know that we'll have the traffic counts to warrant a stoplight, would we?
We don't need,
Stoplight to me is not gonna work there, period.
but we don't have to go through the warrants on the county road that we would, if we go on a state highway.
Yeah,
The county has control on what we do there rather than the city.
okay.
But if Mike would be willing to work and give us a little bit of a light of our, we could put excel and decel lane in.
Yeah, but the concern there is, Mr. Cranick, if you live to the north, right?
Correct, sir.
That means we're gonna have to buy something off you to get that lane in. You know, another construction project.
Are you in the city limits?
We are now. I didn't realize we were in the city limits until this project started. I got a letter and I went to the code enforcement section and I asked them for everything they could give me on this, and then she showed me that the city limit stops right after Mr. Lingle's home. So they went down and they selected certain homes put in the city limits, and all of my property, Darrell Ross's property, this property he bought, and Mr. Lingle's home got included in the city limits, and then it stopped. It stops pretty much just between his house and the next one, I believe. It may include one more below that, I can't remember.
Are you directly south of the project,
Yes, sir.
proposed project?
But the county will control ingress, egress off the county road.
You got a question?
Yes, I do. I have a question about the zoning. We live just south of this property. We live on Harvest Lane, and my house would be just right past that ground. If this zoning comes in, will we be put in the city limits, or we still be out of the city
It's a
limits?
different issue altogether, there's only two ways of getting into city limits that I know of. One is by a referendum of a big area, and the voters would have to vote on that essentially.
Because I built there because it's out of city limits.
Yeah, or you can individually, if you can connect to city limits, you can individually petition to be a part of the city.
I don't want to be a city limits. That's what I'm wanting to know.
Yeah.
When this zoning happens, where will we be?
The-
Okay.
So you can only zone, I may be mischaracterizing this, I hope I'm not. You only zone once you are in city limits. We can't impose
Okay.
a zone on you if that's, I
Okay.
think that's what
Thank
you're
you.
asking. So, a couple of comments on it. I really thought most of the objection would be that if there weren't a fence kind of a thing, and it's people not wanting to see it, nobody ever seems to want, and I understand it, I get it completely. Get used to whatever's there, and we don't want anything else there. I'm impressed that you're putting a fence there personally. It's a pretty expensive endeavor. I think the traffic issues are probably for real and need to be considered. Not as a reason not to do this, I just think that there's gotta be an improvement made there. An example that I've thought for a while, haven't brought it to Glenn's attention, cause it seems to always cause lots of heartburn for people when you change anything, but I'm wondering if Market and Boynton doesn't already need a stoplight. Thought that for a while,
I would agree, sir.
especially at 5 minutes till 8 when I'm trying to get to City Hall.
6:30. How about 6:30?
Or 6:30 in the bus, right?
It's dangerous
Yeah.
for me every morning.
Pardon me?
You can put a stop sign in if you want.
Okay, but that whole intersection's got some issues with its low lying and probably some other considerations that need to be taken into account, but that being said, it doesn't take much effort to realize this is where, whether it's city limits or not city limits, this is where people are moving to and where the town is growing, whether they're actually in city limits or not. You just don't have to look very hard to see that. The reason I bring that up is that from the city standpoint, I feel like we've got two outlooks to take on that. One is you can ignore that fact and not make any improvements, whether that's road or water or sewer or stoplights or whatever, and people still move out there. At some point, usually demand, that's a strong word, but ask for city services because people get tired of septic tanks and that kind of thing, or get tired of traffic and get tired of whatever. And then the city's in a spot, I can give some specific examples that come to mind in developments, not in this area, but specifically north of town that happened and that we're supposed to be in the country out in, and then at some point it reaches a critical mass and people don't want septic tanks, for example. And then what we end up with are subdivisions and developments that we end up going with the sewer and water, but the streets were never designed and the drainage was never designed to city specs, and then that ends up being a huge problem for us. It still is today in some of those subdivisions. Without naming exactly which ones it are, they were designed as country subdivisions, if you will, with tar and chip roads and little, if no, forethought into drainage and such. And ultimately we end up annexing it, probably because that's where there's some population, and then we end up needing to provide those services, but we're left with roads and drainage and things that aren't to spec. They just aren't good enough. So from my perspective, having watched what development is happening out there, and this development is sort of I'm not speaking to this specific proposal, just Marion is land poor when it comes to new development land. And so, like it or not, that area around where you guys are at, especially some of it being in city limits, people are gonna start looking at that stuff for development. That's just what's gonna happen. I completely understand where you're coming from as far as maybe you don't want something next to you or whatever. But from the city standpoint, it's a chicken and an egg argument as to which comes first, the development and then you improve the road, or do you spend millions of dollars improving the road and then hope somebody develops it? It's usually a little bit of both, in my perspective anyway. So all of your points are well taken, but whether this development went in or not, I guess this is a different way of saying that there's gonna be more traffic out there. And we've gotta anticipate that somehow, whatever that looks like, whether that's improvement at Boynton and Market Street. I don't think Cochran is in city limits, for example, that runs over to 37. A little portion of it, but not the whole road. So we may need to lean on the county a little bit to look around this development corner and say, how do we work together to get some of this solved? But, I guess is another way of saying your concerns are not falling on deaf ears. I understand it. I see it. I see what you're talking about exactly, and I think we do have some work to do. But we have work to do regardless of whether this specific thing goes in or not. So.
Can I ask a question, please, and thank you? Because I go down Cochran, it's a death trap for me every morning. But also, when I'm coming back toward town, I wanted to ask about Golf Course Road and Market, because that's another dangerous spot. So when I go around all that new construction, you know, we have to stop on that little narrow road. And it gets scary in the morning, you know, because you got little kids too. So I was just asking if y'all gonna do any, it's almost, you gotta do the construction on the road, because it's, you know, I pray literally every day for 2 spots, Cochran and Margaret, and Golf Course Road and Market. Both of those are dangerous, and I'm trying to get around. No offense, sir, but the construction at times gets a little hairy too, and trying to maneuver and keep people safe it's worrisome.
I understand. Like I said, we've got work to do. I don't know exactly when that happens or what that looks like, but I think we need to give it some attention. I've thought that for a while.
And that's 6:30 in the morning, that's not 8 o'clock. We ain't even got to that traffic.
Well, you guys have any more questions of Michael? With the condition that we study some of these items, which I think are very, very good points. And as Doug also said, we do have a little bit of time to figure some of this out. But with that condition, I'll make the motion to approve ordinance 3864, accepting the plan unit development of parcel 0731300-029 for a multifamily development to be platted as Owl's Landing.
I'll second that.
Okay, any other discussion or questions of anybody? From anybody?
I don't really have any questions. My concern or question, I guess, I mean, development's development, whether it's here, out east, north, east, west, whatever, development is development. And we as a council and planners have to understand early on, preferably, what kind of impact something like this or any other kind of development is gonna have on our roads and streets. I prefer would prefer to have this further along in the process. But I understand we're kind of accepting or voting on an idea at this point. You know, if things don't fall into place, nothing's really lost, I don't guess, because at this point it's a concept. The order seems to me a little bit out of order, you know, the cart before the horse, but, something to consider, I guess, or, you know, that's the tough part of this job is understanding and respecting you all's right to own a house and the reason why you own the house and where it's at. I certainly respect that, absolutely. But it always goes back to this 12 acres probably was for sale at one point in time.
Yeah. A long time.
So, you know, not to fault Michael for jumping in there and saying, hey, this looks like an opportunity to me.
Yeah, we
With
understand
that-
that totally.
With that being said, for you to protect your property, maybe, and again, I'm not saying I probably wouldn't have been in a financial position to buy this property.
We realized that, we were
Yeah.
offered to buy it a long time ago.
Yeah,
Well, can I speak?
sure.
The mayor he's right. I mean, property is scarce. If you
Yeah.
want to build a single family home,
Yeah.
property's scarce, you can't find it.
Right.
This property, when we bought our home off Bob Now, he owned that 12 acres. And Bob just recently passed away. When we bought the home, he offered to sell us that 12 acres. But it was really expensive. I couldn't do all that in
Sure.
my house too.
We did.
Completely.
But it's
Yeah.
been for sale for 6 years, and then when Bob passed away, his daughter sold it. And I don't blame
Yeah.
Mr. Basing or anybody for getting
Yeah.
in there. I mean, somebody could have bought it and made a trailer park out of it, you know?
Exactly.
But,
Exactly.
and it all comes under the heading of progress,
Right.
you know? And I understand all that. We were just concerned about, you know, if it was gonna lower our property values, what it was gonna do to our taxes. I do appreciate the fact of the concrete wall for the privacy thing. I think that's, I'm very grateful he's talking about doing that, you know? And, we live with the rest of it, you know, but it's progress. But we all had the option to buy it, you know, so, and it's been for sale for a long time. And so I told, Em, I said, you know, so we probably should have went in on this thing together and bought it if we wanna keep it. But whenever it's offered for me to buy it, I thought, well, you know, Beanfield, I said, I don't deal with Beanfield, I don't need that extra 12 acres, you know, but I do love the location where I am.
Right.
It's a beautiful location. Anyway, thank you for your time.
I have another question for Mr. Basin. Are you gonna put a road through Cochran subdivision?
Just a temporary road.
So it won't be a road for people to travel on that once you build? What I'm concerned about is our subdivision is small. If they put a road there and people's gonna travel it, it's really gonna be busier than what South Market or Cochran, either one's gonna be.
That's pictured here, right?
Yeah, it's just a
That's-
temporary
you
road.
wanna-
The only in and out after it's completed will only be off of
That's,
to and from market.
that's correct.
Your temporary road is just for your trucks.
This is what he's talking about, this picture. It's just temporary construction.
Okay, well, since this is a county road, will
I'll
they have
let
to
you
go through the
explain.
county?
I'll let you explain
Yeah,
that.
I'm just gonna go off of the county road.
But that's what I say, when you have to go through the county, because it won't be it's just temporary, so they'll okay it?
Yep.
I just don't want a bunch of traffic going through our subdivision,
Yep.
because like I said, it's not very big to start with.
Michael, have you talked to the county at all about your interest?
No.
Okay. Because the only reason I say it, if my memory serves me right, stipulation, I think of 1,320 feet between entrances for commercial. I don't know if this would be considered commercial or not, so it might be worth checking into. There shouldn't be a problem, but, you know, could be. So that, I think that's a county ordinance, I think.
But lastly, I just wanna make, you are committed to building the fence, right?
Yeah.
There's not a question
No.
about that whatsoever. Okay.
Again, one thing I wanna mention too is the fact that you all been to the zoning board already. We've had zoning board things come before this council many, many times. And, it's kind of, it's my opinion, unless it's something that we have knowledge of much more than they do, because they're the ones that we kind of charge with looking at all the, pros, cons, weighing it, listening to everybody's statements, all that, and then it comes to us as a recommendation. And so, I'm of the opinion that if we simply override them, why do we need a zoning board? That's one of my opinions anyway. Not that we can't, but, I think it's good that we have these discussions like this even here, because the one thing we all agree on is there's a traffic issue. There already is, with or without the development. Market's a scary place to drive. And so, at the very least of this, we'll get some positive out of that, hopefully, between the county or whomever, that we can work on some of that, because we are growing as a city, and we're gonna be dealing with more traffic that way, not less, so. Yeah.
Anything else? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Everybody, I'm gonna apologize, but I have got to have bathroom break. So we're gonna recess for just a minute.
If you guys wanna leave, it's okay. If you guys wanna leave, it's okay.
Okay, let's continue after our little recess there. Item 6A is very much speaks to one of my previous comments. We had a phase 1 and phase 2 plan for South Market sewer extension because of this development going on and trying to look around the corner 20 years from now. Our plan was 2 stages. One is first to Sycamore and then from Sycamore to Cochrane. This development that's proposed tonight, approved, brings the need to kind of accelerate this, if you will, so that we can get sewer down there probably a little sooner than what we had planned. We're trying to nail down in this cost escalating world exactly what this is gonna cost. That's changed since the last time we looked at this. And we're asking you to approve, therefore, this engineering agreement so we can nail that down with Horner Schifrin for this phase 2. So let's see if, we're gonna nail down what those costs are and then figure out exactly how to finance it. And I'm working on that plan too. But do you wanna speak to this at all, Brian, or is it, I know it's in the packet, but
I can.
do you have anything to add to it then?
This is in a different format than what I'm used to looking at, Brian.
Yeah, I know, I've had to change some things, so, but, yeah, so the design of this, we'll get it to Cochrane some fraction. Brent and I were just talking the other day, Brent came and asked me about some questions, is one thing we learned, with phase 1 is right-of-way is an issue. So we try to be conservative with a new estimate, because we end up having to cross the road a couple times to avoid an easement, or how deep do we go with the sewer, because you're trying to look around the corner, how deep do I need to go, because how far do I need to go? So we plan to look at some other corridors even to get to Cochrane. Brent brought up another maybe a way that actually don't go all the way to Cochrane that we could plan to kind of go farther east to get there. So that'll be part of that. And then we're allowing ourselves some cost to actually try to get bigger construction easements and really kind of look at that a little closer this time, where we can do that because of the depth, or we just shallow it up and plan for, hey, if we go down Cochrane sometime in the future, we do a lift station. So there's design of this, but there's actually kind of some planning involved in there. Ultimately, what we talked about doing, this project moves forward, is we can have the design done, but actually still just bid to get to the apartment knowing that's gonna go, and everything else is kind of in the future or coming on. So there's a couple ways we're gonna attack it, but at least we get the design done to that point and then decide what we're gonna bid, and how we go forward with that.
go ahead and make a motion, and then if you guys wanna ask more questions, you can. I move to approve this engineering agreement with Warner Schifrin for the South Market Sewer Extension Phase 2.
Second.
Questions of Brian while he's up here?
Brian, there was a section in 4.01E, basis of payment, there was a design lump sum. I'm assuming that lump sum will be paid in increments as the design progresses, correct?
Correct, yeah,
Not just a, here you go.
correct, no, and that's
Yeah.
how we always have done it. I think there's language in there, but it is a new form to me as well, that
Yeah.
it's kind of percent complete type billing.
Just wanted to clarify that.
Brian, this may be more of a question for Brent, but, capacity of our plant, I mean, adding another 100 apartments and we running like a 50% capacity on our sewer plant, 75%, I'm just curious.
The capacity of the sewer plant is 60% or something like that. So we've got a lot of
We
capacity.
just got a lot of room to grow.
Yeah, overall.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yeah.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Is your partner a mosquito fodder? Let's talk mosquito fodders.
Not too exciting, but the equipment that the guys are using, I don't remember ever purchasing any of this equipment, so it's getting pretty old. A lot more maintenance is having to go into it. The newer equipment's easier to calibrate, more efficient with the chemicals that we use for the insecticides. So I told the guys, I said, just give me some bids for what you want. They found the product that we're currently using, and then found 3 bidders to do that. So we're really just asking to purchase the low bid cost from Bezerus, I guess it is. We have some money left over in the mosquito abatement budget this year that we didn't use for overtime and some other equipment maintenances that'll cover most of the cost of this. The availability of these things gets scarce as summer comes on, so we decided to probably go ahead and pull the trigger and get this done now, so we have it ready to go when we start fogging in March, late March.
So we are getting the 18 to 20 model, is that right?
Yeah.
That's what I thought, okay. And what's that -500 on there? Is that,
I think that they were trying to sell 2 at one
Two?
time, yeah, so
Okay.
there was some discount there. I think right now, one is in a lot worse shape than the other one, so we're gonna replace that one first. And then possibly, next year or the year after, maybe replace the other ones, we'll have 2 newer machines in service.
So we're just buying one at the
Just buying one,
13,296.
Just buying one, yes.
That's 500 between those two.
all right, then I would make a motion to approve low bid from Vesuris for the mosquito fogger for $13,296, a budgeted item. I would second that.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yeah.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Okay. Jim?
Yes, street department, we have, in the budget and the need, to purchase a new 3/4 ton pickup truck. We solicited bids to 3 different, Ford dealers and got 2 back. And you can see in your packet, Jim Hayes was the, low bid at $49,002. And, that would be my motion, to approve the low bid purchase of a new F-250 XL 4x4 from Jim Hayes at $49,002.
Would second that.
Okay. Did they give an idea on lead time on this? Just curious. It's gonna be what it is at this point.
Good question, but I haven't.
Okay. Just wondered.
It says a build priority of 99, that means good or bad,
Yeah, that's,
so it's not 99 weeks.
no,
Okay.
that's a high priority. But reason I ask is I think we're okay, but I would think before too terribly long, they'll close out 2023 models and go to 2024s. I don't know, we'll have to see. Okay, Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay?
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item 7B is the funding mechanism to buy that truck, that ordinance. So Jim?
Yes, yeah, again, we went out for bids on banking, for a loan to buy this pickup truck, so, First Southern came in at the best rate at 3.04%. So, that would be my motion to approve ordinance 3862, authorizing a loan agreement with First Southern Bank for the purchase of the 2023 F-250 4x4.
Second that.
Are we going to use some other funds to get to the 49? Cause our ordinance only says 46,651. Just asking. Section 2.
I'm gonna bet that's a, what's the new term you taught me, Wendy? A scrivener's error? What,
Scrivener's error.
with a V or a B?
A V.
V, scrivener's. I bet that's a typo.
Basically means there's a typo in a legal document.
So if our final cost is 49,002, we can amend that section 2.
No, that's the other one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, 49. Yeah, that's what it should read.
49,902? Or
002.
002?
I wonder if that might have been from a previous contract.
I don't know.
Previous agreement.
We're not trading anything, are we?
Was there a motion in a second?
Yeah.
Are you okay with your motion being that we use the purchase price of the
Yes.
truck? Or did you second? Who seconded?
I second.
He did.
Are you both okay with that?
Yeah, as long as we amend that.
I'm guessing that's a typo. We're not
For the
sure.
record, there's 65,000 budgeted for this, so it's well within what was budgeted. Cause he was hoping to buy two.
Yeah.
For 65,000, which was the quote that we got this time last year, and now the cost is 50 for one, so.
Okay, roll call please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay?
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Doug, do you want to walk us through 8A?
Yeah, there were some purchasing procedures I think we needed to update based on, I don't know how you would put it, current conditions, where we're at today in the world. The old ordinance, 3529, we're first of all going to repeal that and replace it with ordinance number 3861. Got some different sections that we're changing. EMA department is going to be their own department with its own spending authority. Section 4D, the amounts in which purchase orders are required or are not required will change a little bit. And basically the commissioner, mayor, and the city council members for each department, their spending limits will increase from 7,500 to 15,000.
Is this only for the street department, or will this all departments?
All departments, yeah.
Not changed, 7,500 didn't change for a long time, and the PO thing is crazy we spend so much time with POs for small items. It just doesn't make sense anymore. Those numbers haven't kept up with inflation, so to speak, in my opinion. So you wanna make a motion?
Yes, sorry, I would like to make a motion to approve ordinance 3861, updating the purchasing procedures in the city of Marion, repealing ordinance 3529.
I'll second.
Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stefan,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Okay, 9A is a amendment to a TIF agreement with a developer that I think is just adding some names to the developer agreement. So I don't think anything materially changed other than just the names. How's that work? Somebody just buys materials, for example, under their personal name as opposed to
Yeah,
the
and with,
LLC or
with
something?
Mr. Tanner specifically, I think he has 7 or 8 LLCs, and it's probably hard to keep track of
Okay.
what entity wrote this check versus that check, so, that happened in this case, and we've seen it. This is probably more common than it should be, but we see it quite often.
It'd be my motion to approve ordinance 3858, amending a residential TIF 1 redevelopment agreement with Carlos Tanner.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stefan,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Let's skip over 9B just for a second, because this is similar, 9C. It's just another, this is a residential TIF 2 redevelopment agreement.
This one, the developer has owned the property for some time, has made some upgrades within the last couple of months since we instituted residential TIF 2, albeit they don't amount to much, I think just a hair over $5,000. So he's moving towards selling the property now that the improvements are done and wants to recapture his eligible costs since we instituted residential TIF 2, so that's what this contemplates.
Okay, I'll move to approve ordinance 3860, authorizing a residential TIF 2 redevelopment agreement with Chestnut Rentals LLC and John Byers, 1004 West Chestnut.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stefan,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. All right, now let's go back to 9B. As we discussed, gosh, now going back several years when we did a pretty novel thing by putting a TIF in a residential area, particularly an older residential area, with the hopes that it would do two things. Cause people to relook at those areas and buy and improve properties. And secondly, once that ball started rolling, and it would take a couple of years before that actually worked, and that property taxes would increase, and thus there be a TIF increment in those areas, that the city would be able to capture that portion of it like it does in TIF, and then create some programs that would create this virtuous cycle. So somebody builds something new, they get a little bit of basically a tax rebate is the way that works by being a part of TIF. The city gets a little bit of that, and then we want to take that money and turn it right back into the residential area with improvement programs as we can, as this builds up. And that's what this program is. And so with that said, I'll let Cody kind of walk through some of the details. We did not invent this from scratch. We kind of found some best examples of other towns that are doing some exciting things, rebuilding their older areas of town, and so we copied.
Yeah, so this is, as the mayor said, a couple years in the making, and we'll have this to look forward to in 2 to 3 years when residential TIF 2 is ready for a similar program. So essentially, we can look at very targeted grants to homeowners to improve things like window repair replacement, siding repairs, porch work, if they need to add a porch, if they need to build an ADA ramp, roof repair, demolition, for example, of a home, demolition of an outbuilding, whatever that may look like, as well as any kind of dead tree removal or trimming or whatever might be in relation to trees. So the goal of the program would be to provide up to 75% of any eligible project cost. So if you spend $1,000, we'll give you up to $750 back towards your project, or $5,000, whichever is less. So, you know, for example, if you spend a lot more, we would cap you out at that $5,000 number. That way, we're sure that it's gonna spread around a little bit and that we're not just helping a couple of people. This year, for example, we're gonna set aside about 50% of what our increment was in this last tax year. So this last tax year, we collected roughly, well, what we've been collected so far, we're close to $400,000 in that account. We're gonna dedicate $200,000 to this project, to this program this year, and that'll run through the fiscal year. So we'll start the application process here in a couple of weeks to get people thinking about, hey, I've been putting this off. Now that I can see that the city might grant me the funds to do so, I'm gonna go ahead and do the project, apply for the grant program, and then we'll be able to cut checks consistent with the fiscal year starting May 1st. So that's what that will look like from a timeline standpoint. But we'll start that application process here in a couple of weeks, even to the point of sending a note card out in the mail, a postcard to everyone that lives within this residential TIF 1 district. So it's exciting. This is what we talked about a couple of years ago, and we're finally to the point where we can hopefully make a significant impact and help folks with some of these renovations.
Cody, how will we follow through on this to make sure that somebody applies for it and says, yeah, I'm gonna do this, that it's been done?
Great question. So these are reimbursement grants, so I need a copy of a paid bill in order to make that happen. And I know we'll probably have some circumstances where we might need to work through some receipts and that kind of stuff. But part of the application process will be that, and we'll be able to do the entire application online through a software package that you all approved back 6 or 8 months ago. But the application will require before pictures and after pictures, so we can physically see that the work's been done, as well as receipts and copies of paid invoices and those sorts of things. Same things that we have to approve now with TIF. So I can't just take your word that you did a project. I have to see receipts and that kind of stuff in order for you to start earning your rebates back.
Is it need-based at all, or I mean, where it's just anybody's?
No, anybody can do it.
Okay.
Yep.
So, like, if you have rental property, do you qualify, or is it just?
Well, right now, we're just considering owner-occupied. There is some provisions if you're a renter, for example, and you wanted to make some improvements, we can work through that process as long as you have permission from the property owner. But this first year, we wanted just to offer this to owner-occupied properties, with the exception of a renter.
This is not a loan, right?
No, just a grant back. So you make the investment, we'll grant you the funds back.
Up to $5,000.
Up to $5,000, yeah.
And it's just to make sure everybody understands how this works. The 75% typically well, 75%, we're gonna do 75% in this residential TIF. Typically, we don't go that much in our other TIFs. I believe the split is like 60-40.
Correct.
But as incentive, we're going 75-25.
Right.
And it's only on the increase in assessed value, is that correct?
Not on this, those are two separate issues. So on a TIF redevelopment agreement, so if you're going to significantly improve a property, build a new building, renovate a home, something like that, that's what we do the 60-40 splits on. So 60% comes back to you, the developer, 40% comes to the city, so we can fund projects like this, programs like this. Or other infrastructure projects that we undertake. I mean, we could, if we had TIF down south, it's timely talking about this tonight, we could use TIF funds to improve the roads on South Market or put in this water or sewer line rather. For this program, we will reimburse you up to 75% of your investment or $5,000.
Gotcha.
And that's just a one-time, this isn't gonna be an annual reimbursement. If you do the work this year, we'll refund, or we'll rebate you, grant you up to 75% of that cost back, or $5,000, depending on how that works. You know, you think about, putting on new siding or a new roof, I mean, you're talking significant money. So most of those people are gonna max out at that $5,000 number this year. We're gonna give it to you all in lump sum, we're not gonna spread it out over several years like these other agreements
Right.
work.
I just wanted to be clear
Yeah.
on that, make sure
Yeah.
everybody understood that it's not well, it's a reimbursement
Yeah.
program, basically, just exactly what you said.
Absolutely, yeah, and this is, like I said, a lump sum. TIF agreements typically, you're considering a, very large, project, and we're gonna pay you back over time as we earn those funds.
Right.
We have the funds available now for these quick
Yeah.
spurts of
Quick
up to
turnaround.
$5,000.
So if a homeowner is successful this year, and then we have another program next year, can they apply again, or are they kind of?
That's to be determined, but my guess is we should probably not make it, available until, several years down the road, again, if somebody takes advantage of it this year.
And part of this just had to be spec'd out by driving around and looking around. And just, one of the common calls I get, is, can you help us remove a dead tree? People are concerned about a dead tree. Well, that's not normally something the city helps with, it's on private property or whatever. But it's kind of expensive to take down a big old tree. So people don't because they don't have the funds to do it. This would be a great program for somebody that's got a tree, for example, it might cost $1,000 or $1,200 or whatever to take down. Same way, driving around, see a lot of dilapidated sheds or old barns, or not barns, but carports and things like that. A similar type situation, you might just not have the money to quite take it down, so we're hoping that that can,
And if we can give you
Spur on some of that.
75% of that cost, hopefully
Yeah.
that can get you, to make that decision.
Great program.
When does it start?
So we
May
won't start cutting checks until May 1st, consistent with the fiscal year, because we have to budget for this program, and we hadn't done so until now. So that'll start with our fiscal year that starts May 1st, but we'll start the application process here in a couple of weeks to get people accustomed to it, thinking through different things that they could do.
That's great.
The idea is to focus on the outside, right?
this go around.
Yeah.
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 In other words,
So,
if I wanted to remodel a kitchen inside of my existing house,
yeah,
we would take a look at it, or that would be an ineligible cost?
this year I would say no.
Okay.
Yeah, this year I would say no. We would need to
Focus on-
change the program a little bit. So
Yeah.
I had talked to, 2 other communities that have done a very similar program to this, and I asked some of those questions, and they said, well, some of the stuff, obviously the ramps and that kind of stuff, the ADA stuff is always a very successful,
Right.
portion of their program. The other stuff, it's the big ticket stuff, right? Sometimes an updated kitchen is more of a luxury than a need.
Exactly.
You need windows, you need a new roof, you need, so that's kind of why we framed it this way. Obviously, the tree stuff comes up
Yeah.
quite a bit, actually,
Yeah.
and it's one of those things that we don't want to be involved in, because we're gonna go on private property, trim a tree that's gonna fall on his house, and, those things get sticky. So, as a typical, neighbor, issue, they could come together, knock the tree down, and we could split their reimbursement or something like that. So, we just saw that as an opportunity, and based on the conversations that I had, typically these higher dollar items are what these other communities saw as successful, and their needs, their, rain, shelter and those sorts of things.
But the concept is as we learn and tackle some of this stuff, it can always be changed from year to year. We need reserves. I think it took us 2 years to build up that money that we're now reserving 50% of. if I'm not
Correct, yeah,
wrong.
it took us
So
2 years to get to
it
that
won't
2
be quite that scale necessarily every year. Hopefully it will be. But hopefully we've got 20 years of this in each one of these tests that, that people can, whoever's on the council at that time can continue to reinvest into these neighborhoods. I think it's a great program.
And as these projects come online, you think about like the Norman Road project, for example. Once all that's built out, that'll all be pumping into this TIF, and we'll be able to, hopefully, what's $200,000 this year for this program can be 5 or 6 or 700,000 in several years. And so, that's what the impact is. And like to the mayor's point, we have 20 years of this at
Yeah.
minimum. so that, it's got a real opportunity of making a big impact.
And hopefully so will residential TIF two in a year or so, or two, so, anyway. Okay, be my motion to approve ordinance 3859, creating the fiscal year 2024 residential TIF one resident, there's a lot of residentials in here, residential redevelopment program.
Second.
Any other questions?
Who coordinates all this paying? Cody?
There you go, Cody.
The good news is, as Cody said, we had asked you several months back to approve some software that'll allow us to publish this application and take in information all online. It's not that everybody will want to do that, and they certainly don't have to, but the application process is a one-pager. So it's pretty straightforward. It's not very burdensome.
Try to keep it simple.
It is simple. Now, the caveats are that people could get tripped up on, but I hope people understand this. You do have to buy your materials here in town. In other words, if you're gonna get reimbursed, for example, let's say you did build a ramp, you need to buy your lumber and your hardware for that ramp here. Turn the receipts into Cody, they've gotta be on a store that's in this town. In other words, we don't want our sales tax to go to some other town for something that people's tax dollars paying for here. So you're trying to create this virtuous cycle in that way too.
A contractor, I guess, can be from wherever.
Yeah, the contractor
Yeah,
could be, but the contractor still has to buy the materials.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm sure that probably rubs somebody the wrong way, but that's just the way it needs to be. They need to buy their stuff here in town, in my opinion. So, okay, roll call please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay?
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stefan,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Okay. All right, item 10A, so we had issued a request for proposals, which the acronym for that RFP, so if I slip up and say RFP, that's a request for proposals. Solicit, we published it on the website, I think, and had an article in the paper, soliciting proposals for ideas on people redeveloping this building once we ultimately vacate it, when that day comes. The council had entertained two of those proposals in executive session under the property exception. Before we discussed them in those sessions, we came to the conclusion that at the way that those were presented, that we weren't ready to accept either one of those proposals. Not that either one of them was bad, just didn't feel like, as presented, they made the most sense for us. Since then, since that RFP, request for proposal date, ended, the first one, another party came to this, actually Cody first, I think, wanting to present us a proposal. After talking to our attorney, Wendy, she thought the proper thing to do would be to close out the current request for proposal period and say what I just said, which is as those are presented, we'll reject them, reopen that for a couple of weeks so that we can entertain this other proposal, which also means that the other two that submitted can revise their proposals if they, and now that they've had some time to think about it, they've had some feedback, so that would be an opportunity for them. It would also be an opportunity for anybody else that might want to come out of the woodwork, so to speak, and present one. So that's kind of what that's all about and what's going on and why. And so that's my motion to reject the two proposals and bids that we've received for the purchase of the current City Hall building, and simultaneously open up the request for proposal. We'll put that back on the website, right? And that end date is 2 weeks, or is it March? What do we say? Sorry.
I think it's March 3rd.
That's what I remembered. Let's make sure.
Yeah, Friday, March 3rd at the close of business.
Okay, let me start over. So it'd be my move to reject the bids as received and as presented, the two of them, for the purchase of the current City Hall, and simultaneously open the request for proposal back up until March 3rd, so that we can hear the one remaining proposal and give the two submitters any time and or an opportunity to revise theirs if they like.
I would second that.
Any questions on this? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay?
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item 10B, Cody, can you speak to this, please?
Yeah, so, we were approached by, Gilmore Bell, who's a bond counsel, company. So they essentially just look at, different bond issuances that we may have. So the intention here was, to enter into this engagement with them, for future bond, issuances. This doesn't tie us down to anything. This doesn't, there's no cost associated with this at present until we were to actually issue bonds, for any kind of infrastructure work or any other future projects that we may have. So that's what's being contemplated here. This isn't nothing imminent necessarily. It's just basically starting a relationship with this company.
So is this in place of the gentleman we used to use from?
No, that's our financial advisor. That relationship is still in place. Name escapes me in this second. Jeff. Schubert. Yeah, no, that relationship still exists.
Okay, I'll move to approve the engagement letter with Gilmore Bell for future bond counsel services.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item 10C.
The good news is we have this relationship in place right now with Home Field Energy. I say it's good news if you've looked at your electric bill lately. We're about almost 6 cents cheaper than what Ameren's rate is on our municipal aggregation. So you're saving on your Ameren bill because of this relationship we have with Home Field. The bad news is that contract with Home Field ends in December. What you're voting on here is to re-enter into what's called a power of attorney with our aggregation consultant, which is a part of the Southern Illinois Aggregation Partnership, to start negotiating a new rate on our behalf that would kick off January 1st of 2024. The Southern Illinois Aggregation Partnership is comprised of just about every, if not all, municipalities within Southern Illinois. And the reason behind it or how they are able to negotiate rates like we currently have, which I think is around 5.5 cents compared to Ameren's 11 cents, is that the way electric utilities are regulated in the state, Ameren isn't necessarily who sells you the power. You still get an Ameren bill every year, and this is always a confusing issue. I know they've been in front of you before to discuss this, our partners at AGE. But essentially, you can choose who sells you your power. Ameren produces the power, they transmit it, and that will always be the case. But companies like Homefield can take all of the resources, they can pool all of the residents of every municipality in Southern Illinois, which is what's contemplated here, in order to buy down the rate. So you're guaranteeing, rather than our 8,000, what I assume is around 8,000 customers, if we look at how many water customers we have, instead of just looking at Marion's residents, we're looking at the aggregate of all of Southern Illinois, 60,000 residents in Williamson County plus Jackson County, Franklin, and so on. So that's where this power of attorney comes into play. They're probably before multiple city councils over the next couple of weeks doing the same thing. So again, that's what this does. It gives them the power to go start negotiating on our behalf for whatever rate that may be as of January 1st, 2024. At a later date, once they've negotiated those rates and presented those to us, you'll vote on a new contract for a new aggregate contract for all of our residents. But that won't come probably until, I'm guessing, late summer. But this just gives them the opportunity to go ahead and start negotiating.
So Cody, how does this affect Home Field Energy, our current?
Doesn't affect them at all. Our contract with them runs through the end of this year.
And then at that point, Can Homefield jump back into
Yeah,
this?
and they may bid on our new
This
contract.
does not limit Homefield whatsoever.
Not at all, not at all. No, the timelines, the way they work out, they start about 10 months in advance, to start negotiating because they have to get in front of every city council and get. So that's what this process is. We will then, again, you'll consider a new contract that will start in January later this summer with a new rate. And it may be Homefield, it may be 3 or 4. There's 4 or 5 that typically bid on this type of service.
Right.
Homefield being one of them.
Right.
Homefield, they're not a power producer, so they're buying it probably off Ameren.
Correct. Yeah, they like I said, they get together and they buy power for everyone, and then they sell it to everyone at a cheaper rate. So what we're paying as residents of Marion around, I think it's about 5.5 cents a kilowatt. They're probably buying it at 4.5 cents a kilowatt, but they're selling it at 5.5. That's how they make their money. But it still beats Ameren's rate of 11.5 cents a kilowatt hour, or whatever that may be.
It's substantially
I
further.
mean, it is substantial, yeah. I've got a relative in another community that doesn't have an aggregation, and they're paying that 11.5 cents, and it's.
I'm surprised the counties don't join in for the county residents.
Well, the problem is, or at least my understanding of the problem, I don't want to speak like I'm all-knowing on this, but the aggregation has to be a public utility, or I'm sorry, a privately owned utility, which would disqualify one of the co-ops from participating, for example, so.
But, I mean, there's people that live in the county that are on Ameren, though, I was thinking, what's the...
Yeah, Wendy just told me that she just called Homefield because she just got her new bill at 11.5 cents, and they allowed her to join, and she lives in the county, so.
Okay.
So is there a period of time that a resident in Marion can join this?
You can join anytime. If you opted out for whatever reason, and a lot of people, there's a lot of hesitation with support of these programs until Ameren's rate jumps to double what our Homefield negotiated rate is. And I get it. It's kind of confusing knowing that you're still gonna get an Ameren bill, but it's actually Homefield that's selling you the power. Why the state set it up that way, I will never know, but we can't change that. So, these programs exist, like I said, if every customer in Southern Illinois is buying power separately, someone's gonna make a lot of money. But if we're all buying all that kilowattage together and distributing those costs over everyone in Southern Illinois, that's a different equation, and that's what we're talking about here.
So a resident that is not currently on this program, how do they get on this program?
I don't have the phone number in front of me, but they can call here and I'll give them the number. They have to call, I can't call on their behalf, but they have to call Homefield Energy and opt in.
Yeah, Kylie's got the number.
Yeah.
We get the call.
Yeah, and how this always works is day one, everyone's automatically signed up. You'll get notification in the mail, call this number or send in this card if you wanna opt out, and unfortunately some people do, and that's what happens, but you can opt back in at any time.
No, I've had at least one person call and we went through Cody and they was able to get signed up, so it doesn't
Can they
work.
look at their Ameren bill? I don't get Ameren, I'm on the southeastern Illinois. But the Ameren bill, will it tell them if they are already on this?
Yes, yeah, it'll list it on there, absolutely. And you'll know based on what you're paying kilowatt hour wise. If you're, just to put it succinctly, if your bill recently just doubled, you need to be on Homefield. Cause I think those rates changed, might have been on the January bill.
But in all fairness, our rate only lasts till the end of the year.
Absolutely, yeah, it only
So,
lasts through December, so.
There's gonna be a shock there.
I've asked for renew for
everybody.
20 years, but they weren't on that, so.
Yeah, we were the beneficiary of timing on that one, but it's not gonna last forever, so.
If I remember correctly, they're hoping to get maybe 20% less than that current Ameren rate, so, still be 10
That's the
cents.
number I was told. They'd like to be somewhere, whatever, around 20% less.
It's
if
still gonna be a
possible.
huge increase for people, so I think they need to.
And if you remember, we went through this last year with our municipal bills, it's separate from this program that I'm talking about. It's been significant increases across the board.
Yeah.
I'm thankful that we're doing this solar project, for example, and we're looking at other municipal facilities for solar because we're talking one facility's currently tracking for about 400,000 over than what we budgeted for on utility bill.
Okay, I'll move to approve ordinance, to approve a limited power of attorney with Southern Illinois Aggregation Partnership to negotiate potential future residential electric aggregation contracts. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick, Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stefan,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. All right, item 10D is something that came up recently. We had really, for the first time in almost my extended memory since I've been here, is there's been a solicitor come to City Hall wanting a permit. We had basically, during the COVID emergency, shut down issuing those permits because of just health reasons. Didn't think it was great for people to be knocking on doors. That being said, as the health crisis has waned and some of these emergency orders in the state are expiring, we've started to have solicitors ask again, and that begged the question of relooking at what was kind of an ancient ordinance, number 859. Haven't seen numbers in single digits like that for a while. So namely, we've kind of streamlined in this ordinance some things, including collecting, for example, make and model of the kind of car that they're driving, express timeline or what period they're planning on soliciting. Keeping in mind, by the way, I should have said this before, this is a constitutional right for people to be able to do this. So we can regulate it within reason, we cannot deny it. But we found this ordinance to be pretty lacking. And then there's an appeal procedure there if I decide to be mean and deny one. And then a suggestion that I made was previously we had allowed this from 8 a.m. to 8 o'clock p.m. I made the suggestion, which we don't have to do, I want to get your input on it, or sunset, whichever occurs first. But the idea there being is I think people are intimidated more or maybe just leery of people after dark, whether that's at 5:30 or whether that's at 9 o'clock. I think after dark is inappropriate to be knocking on somebody's door trying to sell them something that's sometimes the year that is 6 o'clock. So that's why I added that phrase there that you see on page 108 of the agenda material. And then some language in the code about fraud and deceptive practices, which would give us the right to revoke that permit if they were out there making outlandish statements. So since Wendy came up here, she must have some other things to say about it.
I just came up to see if you guys had any
Oh,
questions.
okay.
You know, a lot of times you go so much more, say no soliciting, I guess those people honor that, I mean, just because they have, they can't.
They are,
Violate the
yes.
homeowners, we should say.
Do we have any type of say in the fact of how these people identify themselves? Like the reason I ask is, you go to a hospital, you go anywhere, they've got a name badge with their picture on it, whatever, so you know that that's who that is.
So we can't necessarily require that, but we do require them to keep their permit on them at all times. So that if they do go to somebody's home and knock on the door, the homeowner can ask to see their permit from the city. And if they do not have the permit to show them, then they need to ask them to leave.
Okay.
We really don't have many of these issued at any one time that I remember, but I suspect we're gonna start getting these requests again. So did we decide to just publish information on the web page that says you can call and get a list, or we're gonna try to keep up with that list?
I think we were gonna try to keep the list, weren't we?
Yeah, it's not that common, and
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, but each day is a new permit? Is that right?
No.
Or
No.
you can get one for up to 30 days.
Okay.
You can either do a daily fee for if you're only gonna be here a week or two, or you can do a 30-day.
Yeah, I think we should, unless something crazy happens, we should be able to maintain as we go.
Right now, for example, we have one that's issued that I'm, right, two,
There were two of them,
Oh.
two gentlemen.
two.
They work for the same company.
And they
Okay.
walking together.
Okay.
And they're in the same vehicle.
Most important thing, I think, for our constituents is to know if they don't want anybody knocking on their door, they can post no soliciting or no solicitors somewhere prominent on their
Yes.
door sill or somewhere, mailbox maybe, if it's up on a house. And they're not supposed to approach those houses
Correct.
with this ordinance.
Probably needs to be somewhere near the front door area of the house so that it can be seen. But yes, if a resident has one of those posted, these solicitors are not, supposed to approach those houses.
And if they do, they would be in violation of this and get their permit revoked and be subject to a fine.
Correct.
Correct? So anyway, there's all I have to say about solicitors.
If I'm a solicitor and I'm working the west part of town and my partner is doing the east side of town, do they need two separate permits?
Yes.
So we should ask, residents should ask for, I'm assuming, an original, or can it be a copy of the permit?
It can be a copy, but if you're coming to my door, the permit you show me better have your name on it.
Okay.
Each applicant,
Yep.
each person has to submit a separate application, and then the permit is issued to each person in that person's name.
So
So,
the
like, you
permit
couldn't
should
get
have
yes.
their own name.
It
Yes.
should match
So
their
you
ID.
couldn't get a
Makes
permit
sense.
and make multiple copies and hand them out to
So
all of
wanted
your
to be-
other
wanted to
fellow
be clear
salesmen.
on that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody else read this.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 3863, amending the regulations concerning canvassers and solicitors.
I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton?
Yay?
Commissioner Barwick?
Yay.
Commissioner Webb?
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin?
Yay.
Mayor Absher?
Yay. Okay, Commissioner reports, we'll start with you, Mr. Webb.
Okay, street department, we're running the leaf back quite a bit all over town, cleaning the ditches. Placing some storm pipes and various road gutters along Clark Street. Sidewalks, we're working on them as the weather permits. It's been pretty muddy out there, so clean up a lot of limbs and trash from the recent windstorms, and I think there's another one coming tomorrow afternoon, so. Repairing a lot of potholes. The freeze fall this time of year usually gets us pretty hard, so we're having to do a lot of repair on that, so. Cemetery, we've had 7 burials in January and sold 2 additional lots in January. That's all I have.
Mr. Stecklin.
All right, since last council, water department reports 2 new services were tapped, 4 water leaks were repaired, 3 services were updated, 1 hydrant was replaced, and 4 meter pits were repaired. Since January, a lot of our customers should have received in your bill across connection survey. So if you get this, you don't know what it is, if you know some of the answers, you can fill it out and return it, that's great. Send it back, it helps us with some EPA things, so please send that back in with your payment if you could. This past Saturday, Connect 360 and the Men of Destiny had a great food drive out at the high school. It's amazing to see the turnout that was there. Kept watching, the cars were lined up past the high school and down Wildcat Road, and it just went on forever with the car. There was never an end to the line that came. They were backed up all the way to 37. So it was a great event. I give kudos to those groups for organizing that, and it was really a blessing to see folks how grateful they were to receive the food they did. So yeah, Connect 360 Mendes. Yeah. Yep. So that was a great event, and again, kudos goes out to our performing arts centers and stuff. If you didn't see the announcement, Patty LaBelle has been announced coming to the Civic Center. So if you have a chance, get out on the Civic Center website and look at the talent that is coming here. I mean, for a city the size of Marion to be pulling the artists that we are, and a variety. We're not just getting country artists here, or this or that. It's such a, I know this past weekend there were some really cool performances that were you were part of the performance. Okay, just great things that we're doing, so kudos to that staff and the pavilion, just bringing those people to Marion. Glad we changed the entire way that we gave them kind of a leash to do the stuff that they can do now, so it's been going great. So take a look at the Civic Center's website, see what's coming. That's all I'm saying.
Mr. Robert?
Yes, from the fire department, for the month of January, we had 8 100 series fire calls. We had 2 rescue and EMS calls, 10 hazardous condition, no fire, 14 service calls, 14 good intent calls, 14 activated alarms for a total of 62. Conducted 12 annual safety inspections, and between now and the last meeting that we had a fire out north of Marion, up around the Triple E barbecue area. Came in sometime around 3 a.m. and within 3 minutes of the call coming in, our fire truck was on site. So kudos to the fire department, even though they were asleep, they get with it. Good job. Marion Police Department Narcotics Unit had a seizure of 11.9 pounds of cannabis, 74.4 grams of methamphetamine, 3,002 pieces of drug paraphernalia, 3 grams of mushrooms, 11 grams of controlled substance seizures, 3 controlled purchases, 7 search warrants, and 2 weapon offenses. Marion Police Department report for the month of January, there were 55 city ordinance violations, 203 criminal/traffic citations, 19 warrant arrests, 286 incidents reported, 168 traffic accidents, 4 DUIs. For the month of January, there were 1,888 dispatched calls. There were 2,091 911 calls, 4,667 non-emergency calls, and we had 327 ambulance calls. And I think the chief has something that he wants to say. We're gonna be testing for police officers, and he has the information on that.
Thanks. Yes, we are accepting applications for entry-level police officer and qualified entry. Applications can be picked up at the Marion Police Department, or you can go online to the City of Marion's website at cityofmarionil.gov and download them from there. These need to be turned in no later than next week. We are testing March 4th, Saturday, March 4th, 8 a.m. at the Health Education Center at the Marion High School. And secondly, I want to announce that we are starting a new program effective next Monday. It is a bicycle registration program. We are seeing an abundance of stolen bicycles or abandoned bicycles that just mysteriously show up at the PD. We don't know where they come from or who they belong to. So we have registration forms and numbered stickers that say Marion Police Department on them. So next Monday will be the first day for this. Come to the PD with your bicycle or your child and their bicycle between 8 a.m. and 4 p.m. Most bicycles should have a serial number stamped somewhere on the frame. So we will put that serial number on our form. We will put the numbered sticker on there. So if we find a bicycle or somebody has one stolen, we will have some kind of reference to work on. That's all I have. Thank you.
Dave, quick question.
Yes.
There seems to be a lot of motorized bicycles.
Yes, sir.
How do we handle that? Is a motorized bicycle
They
a
must obey.
bicycle?
It can be, because you can turn that motor off and pedal them. So in that case, yes. But if they're using the motor, they must obey the traffic laws. Is that
How
your
about
question?
cutting diagonally across the square?
Yeah.
Is that obeying the traffic law?
That is not.
Or driving down
Good to know.
13 at 10 miles an hour and everybody's wanting to drive 35.
Correct.
So do you just stop somebody like that for just a regular motor vehicle violation then, at
Yes,
that
you
point?
Can we make a citizen's arrest?
I'd like to see you try.
Feel free.
I may get in trouble.
Anything else?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
I almost forgot. Our new fire truck is supposed to be delivered tomorrow.
Oh, really?
Yes, it'll be here for a few days. We'll go over it. make sure everything is like it's supposed to be, then it will be moved to, I think, St. Louis, and they will be installing the radios and a few of the other options that we've got for it, but, hopefully it will be here tomorrow.
That's a ladder truck?
The ladder truck.
Okay.
We'll have pictures when it comes in.
Commissioner Patton.
I don't have anything, Mayor, I'm good.
Okay, Jill at Club 60 sent me quite a lengthy update. I'm gonna skip over some of this, but there's some really super cool things going on at Club 60. I wanna remind all of you guys and everybody else, just how hard she's working, innovative this is. All of them are working at the Senior Citizen Center. So they've got these, they're working with the Illinois Department of Aging for this benefit access program that encourages seniors to apply and recertify if they're age 65 or older for a license plate sticker discount. So normally that's $151, and if they'll go through this program, it's $10. I think that's a really big deal for people. I think that's neat. Also have this, you may have heard it, LIHEAP, which is Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, Low Income Household Water Assistance Program, Illinois Home Weatherization Program, as well as a Community Service Block Grant, all offered through Crosswalk Community Action Agency. So again, seniors may come to the Senior Citizens Center with their current utility bill, current proof of income for all household members, and a copy of all household members' Social Security cards. But if they qualify based on some income levels, they may get some help with either the energy program, water assistance program, or even get some home weatherization. So Jill is encouraging people to stop by Club 60 or call down to the Senior Citizens Center, 997-9019. Even more fun, so tomorrow for Valentine's Day, she's inviting all the seniors to attend their afternoon dance, which will be everybody at this table except me. Wow.
Wow.
That was really flat. I'll try it again. No,
I'd kick you, but there's a wooden thing right
go
there.
ahead, that's there for a reason. With live music provided by the Back Porch Boys, which it features acoustic guitars, fiddle, harmonica, and banjo. But the most neat and important thing is that our friends from the Marion Fire Department will be there to lend a hand as a stand-in Valentine's dance partner. Isn't that a neat thing? So Joe wanted to thank Chief Barnett and his entire department for helping them host the dance, and I know that will be a great time. This Friday, they're working with our own Terrence Hendry to teach a first beginner computer class in their new computer lab, which is fully equipped with brand new high-speed computers and internet that's now available to use anytime during open hours. On Monday, February 20th at 1 p.m., they're hosting a monthly cooking class that's just turned out to be very, very popular, that focuses on learning how to prepare fresh, nutritious, and simple dishes that the seniors can make at home with ease. This is a free class taught by their talented kitchen staff and is open to everybody 60 and above. On Wednesday, February 22nd at 12:15, Club 60 is collaborating with Lauren McCree to provide a free skincare and makeup tutorial session for older adults. And finally, on March 3rd, from 11 to 1, they'll be hosting a free vaccination clinic at the center. All seniors are welcome to attend. So again, I want to give them some kudos. I think there's some very innovative, needed, and certainly appreciated events happening down there, and really do encourage people to go down there. It's quite an environment. And
I think I get to drive the fire truck down there. They said I could drive it before you did this time.
we'll see about that.
Chief had something else to.
Oh, you got something else?
I do, I'm sorry, I forgot one thing. Next Tuesday night, the 21st, Culver's is hosting a special event. They have named this event Share Night. And what that is, it is an opportunity for the citizens of Marion to come to Culver's and sit down and have dinner or just talk to some of us. Some of the police officers will be there. There may or may not be a couple of our canines there. One in particular, if you all know who I'm talking about. So from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., Tuesday, February 21st, is share night at Culver's, so come and have dinner with some of us, and a portion of that night's proceeds will be donated back to the police department.
You gotta sit there and eat all night while people come in and eat, sit down with you?
We'll do our best.
Okay.
I wanna see,
One french fry every 10 minutes.
I wanna see you down about 3 pounds of cheese curds.
No.
Oh. Okay, under miscellaneous, I hate to do this to you, but we had talked about a purchase of a piece of property that came up in closed session last time, and I completely failed to get that on the agenda this time. So, Wendy has scheduled a closing on that prior to our next meeting, which means we need to have a special meeting. Sorry about that. I was hoping you guys could do it a week from tonight, February 20th, anytime that afternoon. We don't have to wait till the evening or anything. That, as far as I know, would be the only item on the agenda, so that the public knows this is a piece of property that is adjacent to Boynton Street Community Center, which, among other things, should help us provide some more parking down there. So,
What time?
I'm open anytime that afternoon, but I have just penciled in 4 o'clock. Is that possible for a week from tonight?
The 20th.
Holiday here.
20? No? Yeah. Or we can do it, we have to have 48 hours notice, so that has to be, couldn't be Wednesday at this point, could be Thursday, except I'm not available Thursday afternoon, so it could be as early as Friday. I just didn't figure you guys wanted to come in on a Friday afternoon. It's all of 3 minutes worth, I mean.
Thursday morning would work for me. I've got a meeting here in town, and I'm gonna be out of the office.
What's everybody else's availability?
How early? My meeting's at 10:30, so we could meet at, you said it's 3 minutes?
Yeah, unless,
6 to 6:15.
Could be 4 minutes.
can you guys meet at 9 AM Thursday the 16th?
Coffee time at 6 o'clock.
Could we meet at 9:45 or
9:45 on Thursday the 16th?
9:52?
Jimmy, you're probably the one that may be affected the most.
Yeah, it might be tough on me, but I'll try.
Okay.
Can we shoot for 10?
What?
Can we shoot for 10 on Thursday, or needs to be 9?
10 works for me,
Okay, let's just do 10, that way it's an even number, not 9:45.
as long as it's just 4 minutes.
We have to get the agenda out by 10 tomorrow morning.
Right.
To make that,
Ah.
that gives us a little time in the morning.
Thursday the 16th at 10.
Before the governor's executive order expires, could Jim still dial in on a Zoom if we publish that link? If that's problematic for him? Okay, we'll see about that. See if we can make that work for you.
So 10 o'clock Thursday, the 16th.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could call in.
Tammy, you got all that?
Thursday, the 16th at 10 AM.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else to come before the council under miscellaneous, item 12? Okay, we do have a need for close and executive session this evening. As I usually state, we will meet outside of this room. When we're done discussing, we'll either come back in here if there's people still in here to close out the meeting. If not, we'll close it out in there. We will be making no decisions, no motions, nothing else after this motion to go into executive session. So seeing nothing else to come before the council, it's my motion to move out of regular session into executive session to discuss litigation, property, and personnel.
Second that motion.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay?
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Guys, let's try to take 5 minutes or so to go to the restroom and then meet over here. Glenn, I don't need you tonight, so you're welcome to go home.